Tesla has spent over 5 years, billions of dollars, and have some of the brightest AI engineers working on solving full self-driving. And while the latest version of full self-driving is absolutely amazing, at times it still feels like a very scared student driver. If you haven't tried Tesla's full self-driving yet, I suggest getting your hands on version 12 and seeing how it handles. It handles most road conditions like a professional. It rarely makes a mistake, and it rarely will put you in a position where you feel like there's a safety issue. But it still fails at seemingly basic tasks like driving through a flashing orange or yielding on a flashing red. And so the point of the videos I'm going to make on this channel are not necessarily to highlight the great things about Tesla's full self-driving. There are plenty of channels doing that already. The software is absolutely amazing. I don't think we need another channel that just highlights how great the software is. So my goal with this channel is not simply to just be a Tesla critic, but I want to be able to give my thoughts on ways that some of these issues could be solved. Now, I am not an AI engineer, as I've mentioned before, but I do drive the car on full self-driving for tens of hours every single week. So that's literally hundreds, if not close to or over 1,000 miles every single week on full self-driving. So I have a pretty good amount of experience when it comes to understanding the vehicle's behavior and limitations. Now let's take a look at this maneuver on version 12.5. FSD performs absolutely brilliantly at times. Take a look at this video from AI Driver where there's a cat running across the road and it just stops right there in front of the car. And the car is aware that there's something in front of it. It's not aware that it's an animal. I don't believe it's aware it's an animal. I think it's aware that it's an obstruction that it should not go over. But if you take a look as this other car approaches, it decides this obstruction is a better route to take than to stay directly in the path of the other car. I don't think it was trying to nudge the cat out of the way. It saw that as the safer path and was willing to run over that obstruction rather than run into the car. Now look at this. It performs a beautiful U-turn at a very, very odd intersection. If you take a look at this intersection here, we are on the inside. So the way this lane works is you have the main road on the left, and then there's these side roads that lead to these hotel and residential buildings on the right. Now, to make a U-turn, you have to be on the right side of the road. And look at this. It understood the road dynamics very well and was able to perfectly execute a U-turn. But in certain situations, like a flashing orange, it comes to a complete stop. Now, here are a couple of examples from Dirty Tesla on version 12.5, where the car comes to an orange flashing light and decides to stop. Now, if you take a look at how this light is facing, you see the orange flashing and then you see the red flashing. So I don't think the car can understand the situation. I think it understands it as an orange light that's about to turn red, and that's why it's failing at this point. Or in this alternative case, it sees the flashing red light and just sees it as just a red light. Now, sometimes it'll also see the flashing orange and execute it correctly. And at times it'll see the flashing red and also execute that correctly. But it's all going to be depending on which branch of the neural net this information is traveling. And so you're not going to get consistent performance. Now, it's hard to understand why it would be able to negotiate such a difficult U-turn situation and have such a hard time with a flashing orange light. But since I drive so many miles on FSD, I think I have some insight as to what's happening. Most of the time that you're driving and you come across a light, it's going to be either a green light or an orange light transitioning over to a red light or a turn signal. So most of the data that the vehicle's been trained on, or the software has been trained on, is on those types of driving. Green light, orange light turns to red, or you have a turn arrow. Now, there are times when, and there's plenty of data for when the car sees a flashing orange. But the vast majority of the time when the car sees an orange light, it's an orange light that's going to turn red. So when the car sees a flashing orange light, its best assumption is that it's going to turn red. And so its instincts, if I can call it that, are to slow down and come to a stop because it's assuming that's most likely what's going to happen next. So what Tesla's attempting to do is to feed it enough data such that when it comes across a flashing orange, it knows that it's not going to turn red, that it's most likely going to remain flashing and therefore should proceed. So the way Tesla is attempting to solve this is to provide enough training data to show the software that when it comes across a flashing orange light, that it should just proceed. Now, as they resolve this issue, other issues might creep in, such as it might decide now when it sees an orange light that's about to turn red, just a regular light that's not a flashing light that's about to turn red, it might decide to just proceed through it. It might just create like an imbalance where it tends to run oranges and is not as careful about stopping at orange lights that are turning red. And so there's an overfit issue for the rare cases where there's an orange light. So that could potentially create a safety situation for regular orange lights that are turning red. And the reason why this is happening is because Tesla has gone to a single stack architecture, meaning you have one piece of software that understands all driving behaviors. While I believe in the long term this is achievable, the issue with this strategy is that it will take a very long time to be able to balance the weights to get it to perform near perfection at a 10x or even at a human level in all situations. The path that I would like to see Tesla try is to have a multi-agent with a chief executive model. So what does that mean? As I've mentioned before, the current version 12 software stack is extremely good at generalized driving. It's also very good at evasive driving by either getting out of the way of dangerous situations or creating enough space so that it's not in a place of danger. Now, where the software fails is on complex issues. So things that don't come up normally. So those things include, as I've mentioned before, roundabouts. And that's because roundabouts come in many configurations. You have single lane roundabouts, multi-lane roundabouts, just small roundabouts, large roundabouts. There's just a lot of ways you can navigate through a roundabout. And so it's both trying to understand the road details as well as the map data. And it's trying to put those things together while simultaneously negotiating with other drivers. And so roundabouts at the moment are a little bit difficult for the car to handle. So the way I envision the multi-agent plus the chief executive stack to function, it's all going to be neural networks. Essentially, what you're trying to figure out is you're basically training a bunch of different agents, and you're seeing which ones are good at what kinds of tasks. So we already know we have an agent that's very good at normal driving, and we also know that we have an agent that's very good at evasive driving and safe driving. So what you're trying to develop is at least one agent that's good at complex driving. Now, you may end up developing multiple agents that are specialized in different types of complex driving. You may have an agent that's good at all types of complex driving. So whether it's flashing lights, roundabouts, merges, all those complex situations, which to normal adult drivers seem fairly simple. If you have enough training if you have enough road time, you just kind of intuitively understand how to do those things. But to the software, these are not simple. And so you might want to train an agent that's very good at these types of complex maneuvers. It may be good in specific types of complex maneuvers. It may specifically be good at flashing lights. One might be specifically good at roundabouts. One might be very good at mergers, so etc. So there's a countless number of agents you may develop, or it might be just a single complex network agent that's trained on these edge cases. And then on top of that, you're going to develop a chief executive. So the chief executive neural net, their job is to understand the road conditions and determine which one of the stacks is best for executing the maneuvers required based on the road condition. As you approach a flashing orange, the chief executive neural net would essentially dedicate that maneuver to the neural net that's good at executing orange light maneuvers. As you drive down a normal road, the chief executive would not give it to the complex agent. It would give it to the simple agent. It would give it to the agent that's good at driving very smoothly down a normal road. So the chief executive essentially would work as the equivalence of our frontal cortex, the part that decides what to do next. And if you really think about it, even with people, that's kind of how we operate. You'll notice that when you're driving on a long stretch of road where not much is happening, your mind kind of wanders and you don't need to think about what's happening very much. But as you come to different situations, let's say an intersection or a train track or whatever it may be, you'll notice all of a sudden you get out of the daydream mode and get into a more focused mode. Now, I'm assuming that Tesla's engineers have thought about this as well. I don't think I'm that smart where I've thought about something new that they haven't thought about. So my guess is possibly one of the reasons why they haven't gone that route is because of inference limitation. So my understanding of how these neural nets operate is you have these giant server farms essentially with GPUs where the FSD is being trained. And if you could fit that entire plant into a car, you'd probably have a car that's already superhuman. However, you can't do that. You can't fit a building in a car. So what you have in the car is you have an inference computer, a much, much smaller version of the neural net that is currently being trained on. And the inference computer's job is to just execute what it's already learned. So my best guess is a multi-agent chief executive, I'll call it MACE. The multi-agent chief executive model might be too big for the current hardware 3 that's running in the cars. Or it might be that the engineers simply believe that they can train this as just one single stack. And like I said before, I think they're probably right. It just feels like that path is a significantly longer path than having multiple agents. If you're an AI engineer and you want to talk about this some more, I definitely want to have more discussions about this because I really believe that this is a viable option for reaching full self-driving sooner. I believe that Tesla has essentially already solved full self-driving. It's just that they haven't solved full self-driving in a single stack. So please reach out if you're an AI engineer. I would love to understand if I'm wrong about this, how I am wrong, or some of the challenges in trying to achieve it the way I'm talking about it. So please feel free to reach out, send me an email, drop me a comment. I read through all the comments. So I would love to discuss this further. And thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Talk to you guys next time.